All right, so we're diving deep into, well, Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah.
We've got Walter Isaacson's new biography, and of course, his Wikipedia entry, which is a story in itself. But it seems like you're most curious about the man behind, well, all of it, right?
It really is fascinating. You can be glued to every SpaceX launch,
Yeah.
every Tesla announcement, but there's something about Elon Musk himself, the personality, the drive, that if we can unpack that, well, it might just give us a glimpse into the future he seems so determined to build.
Okay, so let's unpack. Isaacson's biography doesn't hold back, like at all. Right from the start, he paints this picture of Musk's childhood in South Africa. It's like privilege. We're talking his dad claiming part ownership of an emerald mine, but then bam, also a family life that sounds, well, rough.
Right out of a movie.
Yeah, totally. And what really struck me was Musk describing his school as straight out of Lord of the Flies. I mean, that's
Intense. And, even if it's a little exaggerated, it says a lot. This wasn't just a kid shaped by wealth, but by some serious adversity. Like Isaacson talks about this brutal incident where Musk was beaten up so badly he ended up in the hospital. Think about that, the kind of impact that would have on someone, especially that young. You can almost see how it ties into the Elon Musk we see today, this incredible resilience.
yeah, like it makes you wonder if facing that kind of thing so early almost forces you to become, I don't know, almost like you have to prove everyone wrong, achieve the impossible. The foundation for that drive.
Exactly, and it's not just speculation. It's there in how Isaacson describes Musk's management style later on. Direct, sometimes to a fault, but always pushing, demanding those groundbreaking results. It's like he internalized that early environment, that constant need to prove yourself, you know?
Right. So we're seeing this picture emerge, this challenging environment pushing him to find, I don't know, almost like a refuge in his own world. It's no surprise that Isaacson talks about Musk escaping into science fiction, like devouring the works of Asimov, Douglas Adams, all that.
And that's a huge piece of the puzzle. It wasn't just a hobby. It speaks to this early fascination with what's possible, with pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Colonizing Mars was a dream long before SpaceX. It's almost like those science fiction stories planted the seeds for that ambition.
Okay, so we've got privilege, hardship, a refuge in imagination, and this, I don't know, innate drive to achieve. It's almost like he was like wired differently even back then.
Don't forget what Isaacson calls zoning out, this intense ability to focus, block out the world, and just dive deep into a problem. You combine that with everything else, and, well, let's just say you've got the starting blocks for one extraordinary entrepreneurial journey.
And wow, what a journey. This isn't just like climbing the corporate ladder. This is like building your own rocket-powered elevator.
Right.
Zip2, PayPal, SpaceX, Tesla. It's almost like he's not just building companies, he's got this knack for targeting, I don't know, industries that are about to change.
It's a pattern, for sure. Musk sees an opportunity where others might just see the status quo. Take Zip2, for example. Isaacson really brings you into that world, this tiny startup, Musk and his brother Kimball, basically creating web software when most people didn't even know what the web was.
Right. It's like the Wild West of the internet back then.
Exactly. And they sell it for, well, a pretty penny. Most people would take that win and, I don't know, buy an island or something. But not Musk. It's like a stepping stone, the fuel for what comes next.
Which is X.com. And we all know how that story goes, right? That little startup, it basically morphed into PayPal. It's hard to imagine online payments today without it, you know?
You could practically draw a straight line from that early vision to, well, how we all pay for things online now.
It's insane. And here's the thing. At this point, he's already made it, right? Multiple times over. But instead of, I don't know, just chilling on a beach somewhere, he sets his sights on something even bigger. SpaceX. And this is where things get really, really interesting.
This is where the ambition goes off the charts. He doesn't just want to launch satellites or make space travel a bit cheaper. Musk wants to colonize Mars.
Which, let's be honest, sounded kind of crazy back then.
Even his closest friends, as Isaacson tells it, were like, wait, what? And this wasn't about some vanity project or chasing profits. This was about, well, the future of humanity.
But to do that, he needed to crack reusable rockets. I mean, this is something NASA, with all its resources, had struggled with for decades.
It was the holy grail of space exploration.
And Isaacson walks you through those early SpaceX launches, the failures, the setbacks. The first 3 Falcon 1 rockets, gone up in smoke.
Each one a gut punch. Any other entrepreneur might have thrown in the towel.
But not Musk. He's got this, like, almost irrational belief, this refusal to even consider the possibility of failure.
And that's what makes him so fascinating. It's not just the intelligence, it's the sheer force of will.
Right. It's that relentlessness, that drive, that just won't quit that seems to define his leadership style.
But it comes at a price, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Isaacson doesn't shy away from that at all. We're talking brutal hours, impossible deadlines, people getting fired, like just like that.
And it's not just about the long hours, it's that intensity. He can attract the best engineers in the world, but managing them, understanding those human dynamics, that's a whole other challenge.
And nowhere is that more obvious than with the Tesla Model 3 rollout. Isaacson describes this pressure cooker, production delays, Musk sleeping on the factory floor, literally pushing himself and everyone around him to the absolute limit.
Talk about high stakes.
Yeah.
But even in all that chaos, you see these moments of pure brilliance. Isaacson tells this story about Musk watching the production line. And he just decides right then and there that human workers are faster than the robots they'd spent a fortune on.
No way.
Oh yeah, starts ripping them out himself. Millions of dollars of machinery just gone because he had this gut feeling.
It's kind of terrifying and inspiring at the same time, you know?
That's Elon Musk in a nutshell. This incredible mind, but also prone to these, I don't know, impulses. It's like he's operating on a different level.
And that duality, that unpredictability, it's the source of both his greatest successes and, well, a whole lot of controversy. He's always pushing, always moving, and sometimes, yeah, people get caught in the crossfire.
It's kind of wild, right? We've been talking about this guy, this innovator, this engineer who's like bending reality with rockets and electric cars. But then there's this whole other side, the personal life, and it's, well, messy.
It's a bit of a head-scratcher, isn't it? You've got these public statements about wanting to save humanity, but then Isaacson dives into the relationships, the marriages, well, let's just say it hasn't exactly been smooth sailing.
The guy was married to Tallulah Riley twice.
Twice!
Makes you wonder what drives that, right?
It's got to be tough, you know, to really connect with someone when you're living life at that pace with that much pressure.
Isaacson actually includes some pretty revealing stuff from Justine, Musk's first wife. She talks about his struggles with empathy, with really, like, connecting on an emotional level.
Which, I mean, when you think about it, kind of tracks with what we were talking about earlier, right? That whole, like, survival mode thing.
Absolutely. It's like he built these incredible walls, this resilience, but maybe at the expense of some of those, you know, softer skills.
And yet you read Isaacson's descriptions and you see these moments where Musk seems, I don't know, almost childlike. Naming his kid, what was it again?
XA12.
Right. Or like bringing his dogs to work, playing video games during those crazy SpaceX launches. It's such a weird contrast.
Because he's not a robot, right?
Yeah.
He's this complex mix of contradictions. And those little details, they matter. They remind us that we're not just talking about some, like, caricature of a genius billionaire. This is a real person with all the complexities that come with that.
And speaking of complexities, we got to talk about the elephant in the room. Twitter. I mean, this wasn't just another business deal. This was like a corporate takeover drama unfolding in real time.
Complete with hostile takeover bids, mass layoffs, and those musketeers, as he called them, from Tesla and SpaceX, suddenly thrust into the chaos.
It's like he was playing a real-life game of chess, moving people around, making these huge decisions on the fly.
And that's what's so fascinating. With Twitter, he wasn't dealing with engineering problems with lines of code. He was dealing with human behavior, with the messiness of online discourse.
And it showed. The policy changes, the fights with advertisers, the whole thing felt like one giant experiment.
Which, in a way, it was. He had this vision, this idea of what Twitter could be, but the execution, well, let's just say it's been a bumpy ride.
So where does that leave us? We've covered his childhood, his successes, his failures, the relationships, the controversies. What's the takeaway? What's it all mean?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Isaacson gives us this amazing glimpse inside the mind of one of the most influential figures of our time. Elon Musk is brilliant, flawed, driven, destructive, inspiring, and infuriating, often all at the same time.
And that's what makes him so fascinating to follow. He keeps us guessing.
He does, and maybe that's the point. He's not afraid to push boundaries, to make mistakes, to challenge the status quo. Whether that ultimately makes him a force for good in the world, well, I guess that's for history to decide.
That's a wrap on another deep dive. Thanks for listening.